All right, guys. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. Here's your boy Franklin. Welcome you in, and today we have another edition of the Friends of the NL East. And we're gonna preview the winter meetings and a couple other things, crazy things that have happened over the weekend. But before we get started, how you guys doing?
I'm doing great, I'm excited for the everything to start getting rolling. This is going to be an exciting week. We talked about it before. It's been a slow off season so far, but it's all going to kick off soon. What about
Yeah,
you, Brandon?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you guys again. And yeah, man, I'm missing baseball. This is no man's land. And NFL not really doing a whole lot. Had an exciting college football weekend. And so Georgia got booted by
Not
Alabama, and
getting
then
that
Alabama
three-peat.
booted Florida State for the playoffs. What you guys think about that?
That was crazy, man. I was kind of rooting for Georgia. I was hoping they'd get that three-peat. And anytime I can root against Alabama
Come
is
on, man. That's right.
I saw the headline, but I haven't really been paying attention.
Yeah. Well, that's all. But my point is, that's all we got because it's just been a slow holiday, man. Everybody in baseball has been enjoying their turkey, and but I got a feeling the stove might be heating up. So excited to chat with you guys tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm super excited. I thought we'd kick off with the news of the day. We finally got the news of Jackson Churios. Am I saying that right?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Extended by Milwaukee, 8 year with some options, and it's just a crazy deal. But I just, for me, I just, I don't know. He hasn't played above double A yet, and you're extending him 10 years. I know it's not a lot of money, but for a club like Milwaukee, that's always what they're the 30th club income level, and they're worried about their payroll. What does this do if he doesn't pan out? And so I'm just curious about it. If it was a big market club doing it, like the Mets or Dodgers or Yankees or whatever, you know, I mean, because the
Yeah.
Braves did it, but the Braves did it after they saw the guys play.
That's
So
what I was gonna say. It sounds like a very Braves-esque move. You see them do this all the time. I think they did it last or a couple of years ago with Michael Harris, when he just got started in the major leagues. They do it all the time with their prospects. I agree, it doesn't make sense because he hasn't played an inning in the major leagues. But when you see this guy, and some of the stuff that he's doing in the minor leagues, he looks good. And so I mean, I think it's a nice for him. It's he's basically robbing Milwaukee of an 8 year contract, but it's not that much money, and it's just a little incentive for him to play even better once he comes up this year.
Yeah, I agree with Victor. I think, honestly, I think the biggest controversy here isn't Milwaukee giving him the money, but him taking the money. Because you compare it to like a Bryce Harper situation. Harper comes up, 19 years old, gets an MVP under his belt, makes some noise, whatever, signs record breaking deal, whatever, $300 million contract at the age of 26. And so he's probably got one more big contract in him still. And so really what this did was kind of take that out of his hands. So I think more controversially isn't the what the Brewers did, but Chirinos what he did. But you mentioned the Braves. The Braves, like, I mean, I'm used to reading this because for the last 4 years, that's all anybody wants to talk about when they talk about Acuna and Albies and Harris and Strider. They get called up. So listen to this about Acuna. Acuna in 2019, the very beginning of the season, in 20. Now you got to remember he was rookie of the year in 2018. Okay, So rookie of the year in 2018. At the beginning of 2019, he signs an 8-year, $100 million extension. 8-year, $100 million. He had only played 115 games. And then listen to what happens 2 years later. He tears his ACL. So, and that's not something you just come back from. Like the Hall of Famer Chipper Jones did it. But the list is short. And Acuna, when he tears his ACL, wasn't nobody making fun of the deal then. You go, man, he may have dodged a bullet. So these things are unpredictable. Like you just don't know. We might be talking in 3 years and be like, man, Milwaukee got fleeced, or we might be talking like, man, that player, man, he really messed himself up, So these things are unpredictable.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one. That's a prime example of why the player should take it, because regardless of what he's been doing in the minors, those years aren't guaranteed. If he comes in and gets hurt like an Acuna and never comes back the same, he's never going to make that money. So as a player, I get it. I just, but again, they saw Acuna play.
He had 115 games. Now, granted, Acuna went way up in the minors. Like nobody saw this guy coming. He wasn't on any prospect lists at all, and had a really good spring. And everybody was like, whoa, who is this kid? All of a sudden, he becomes the #1 prospect and gets 115 games and a rookie of the year under his belt. That's what makes this fascinating to me, guys, is he hasn't played on the major league level. Like, can he hit the curve? They must see something, in this guy to want to lock him up. But to Victor's point, it wasn't a ton of money, I guess. We're talking, an AAV of 10 million or something?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna read out the contract right now. It's 8-year, 82 guaranteed, and 2 option years of 25 million each. So a total of 142.5 million for 10 years if it goes through the whole thing. It's not a lot of money in today's world. It's just it's the Brewers, right? They sold off Cano as soon as they could because they didn't want to pay his salary. You know what I mean? They gave away their manager because they didn't want to pay the manager's salary. And they're not a club that spends money, and for a club and to take a chance on the player, that part doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, there could be big payoff if he ends up in Acuna-esque. I know you shouldn't compare to these star players, but if he ends up Harper-esque or just anything like it, that's the Brewers are saving themselves $10 million a year for him. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm guessing at this point he's a roster guarantee.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say on this is that I kind of wish that the Mets would do something more with their prospects coming up. You never see the Mets sign prospects or rookies to long-term deals early on. They usually kind of wait out their arbitration. So it'd be nice to see some of our top prospects get deals like this so that they have more incentive to play well. They feel more comfortable. But then again, everyone plays better on their walk year. So you never know.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I'd like to see them lock up Alvarez after seeing them play. Again, after seeing them play in the majors. So I'm okay with them locking up Alvarez. We'll see next year if Ronnie Mauricio does well. Maybe they lock him up too. But just like the Braves did, Albies, Acuna, Harris, Strider, they all saw them play before in the majors before they gave him the contract. That's the part that's hung up on me. It's not that I'm not hung up on the contract. I'm giving him the contract. I'm hung up that he hasn't played in the majors yet. And that's
a weird flex, man. And I gotta think you gotta at least give him half a season. To see what he's gonna do, see if he's gonna stay healthy. I will say the only thing I can figure out is, like Victor was saying, it does send a message to the clubhouse when you're willing to lock up young guys for long term. And even though they're team friendly deals, it sends a message to the players. Hey, if you perform, even in AAA, like if you do things the right way and you measure up to the culture we're building here, we're gonna pay you. And it gives some players some incentive and something to work for. I think it's weird they did it before. I mean, at least maybe let him get, what, 10 or 15 games under his belt, and see what that does. But I'm looking at the contract. He's still going to be, 27 if they don't pick up his options. And so you don't pick up you're 27 if you play good enough. Then man, you're still young enough to demand a pretty big contract when you're able to walk. And if you don't play good enough, then what do you care? By the time you're 27, you've pocketed $82 million and you've just changed your entire legacy.
No, all true, all true. But again, he hasn't even played in AAA. Not above
Oh,
any, no,
I didn't
nothing
know that.
above yeah, nothing above AA. And that's the part, again, we can harp on this the whole time, man, because it just blows my mind. At the end of the day, it's not my money, so why do I care? So, but let's move on and let's talk about the winter meetings. It's finally here, and you know what? I am so glad it's here because I'm tired of hearing all these rumors. I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of hearing all these rumors. And at the end of the day, from what it sounds like, Yamamoto and Ohtani aren't going to sign this week, from what it sounds like. So, what are we going to do this week? What's going to happen this week? Help me out, guys.
And I saw a report that Ohtani was close to signing, and it would be within the next week. Maybe that's wrong, but I think as soon as he drops, all the bats go with him. And I could see a similar thing happening with Yoshi this week. He's meeting with teams this week. He's not going anywhere, so it won't take long to meet with these teams. So I see him dropping this week, and with the Mets organization, and all the pitching free agents will drop after that. We had an exciting winter meetings last year, where a lot of these players dropped, and then we saw it was a snowball effect after that. So that's what I'm hoping for. But like I said, I think it'll happen this week. What do you think, Brandon?
I don't know, man. So here's what's got me flipped out. So I think between the pandemic and the bargaining agreement, I think those two events, almost back to back of each other, have pushed the hot stove closer to the season. Like we used to see between the World Series and the winter meetings, pretty much all the chips fell where they needed to. And then all the second and third tier guys were just gobbled up, January and February, filling out rosters for spring training. Now we're seeing these major free agents wait longer and longer and longer. Some aren't even signing until February. And that's just because they need to know where to get an apartment for spring training. And so I don't know. There's a world in which I could see if Ohtani's not getting the deal that he wants from the team that he wants, I could see him holding out. I mean, we've even seen some free agents hold out till the middle of the season to get a contract they want with a team they want. So I don't know, man. I think we're waiting longer. I don't expect we're going to see any major moves until after Christmas.
Wow, I can't even fathom that because I am so tired of the rumors. Where the Mets are linked to here, this guy, everybody they're linked to, and I'm just tired of hearing it. But I'm hearing the same thing. I've seen the same thing, and I'm hearing the same thing because Yamamoto, like you said, Victor, is meeting with guys with teams this week, which will probably take him a few days. So that means nothing's going to happen until at least the weekend. at the earliest before, because of all the other things going on. And Yamamoto is holding up the pitching market, the top pitching market, and Otani's holding up the hitter market with trades on both ends, with trades because Soto's probably not going to go until Otani goes, right? Dylan Cease is not going to go anywhere until Yamamoto goes, or Glass now, or all those guys. And so, we're probably not going to see a lot going on. Maybe we'll see I saw something today that it might be reliever heavy this week. Very exciting, guys.
A bunch of 2 and 3 tier relievers jumping off the market.
But I
Yeah,
think what you also see is a lot of the middle end starters start to go. Like the Jordan Montgomerys, the Eduardo Rodriguez of the world. Those guys will probably start falling this week, and as soon as pitchers start going off the market, is when I think some of those guys might get closer to a decision. Once they see teams start picking up and not waiting, they might get the idea that they need to sign with the team soon. So I could see that happening too.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Brandon.
I was just gonna say on the Braves end, I mean, we talked about this last time. our GM, man, he didn't give a crap. So he's gonna do whatever he wants, and no one's gonna know. And so the fact is, like we saw with the Freddie Freeman deal, he's not gonna wait. So he's gonna get his team together. He knows what he needs. So the Braves know they need a left fielder or some sort of platoon in left field. The bullpen is pretty much stacked. So they'll add a couple of depth pieces just for good measure. And they need at least one, I think two, frontline starting pitchers and, number 2, number 3 guys. And then a few flyers to take some depth. So, it could be worth that. That's the Braves' needs. They're going to get it done. And if a player is waiting or whatever, like the Braves don't wait, man. They don't wait on Freddie.
Yeah, and so what do you think the Braves are looking for? Me and Victor kind of spoke a little bit of what we we were expecting from our end, from our opinion on what we want the Mets to do on the last show. What do you want to see from the Braves? What players do you want to see in the Braves uniform?
I don't know, man. I mean, we've talked about this, I think, even on the last podcast, but in left field, man, I'd love to see Jock Peterson back. In my opinion, the Braves missed that in the playoffs. They need some edge. They've always had it the last few years where they've I wouldn't say overperformed, but performed to their peak. I mean, they had Josh Donaldson that helped get them to the playoffs for that first time in 2018. He brought an edge. They had Jock Peterson when they won the World Series, and Soler even, just some people to bring a little bit of an edge. Acuna is fun, and Ozzy is fun, and Arcia is fun, and they have fun together, and they're entertaining to watch, and they're fun to watch together, and they banter, but they don't have that edge that's going to fire the team up to say, hey, when we go in and play the Phillies, you guys got to chill, So I really would love for them to go after Jock Peterson in left field, and then maybe go out and get another somebody to complement him. I don't think Jock's an everyday player. And then, I mean, we need some starting pitching. So honestly, I think that's probably going to come via trade. And the Braves are really good at pulling off 3-team trades. So don't buy all the stuff, man, when they start saying, well, the Braves are out on Corbin Burns because, the Brewers are looking for this kind of player and the Braves don't have that in their system, or they're not going to give up a Michael Harris or whatever. And I agree, they're not going to give up a Michael Harris, but they can say, oh, you want this and we don't have that. Well, Oakland has that. And so why don't we let them jump in? And, that's exactly how they pulled off the Sean Murphy trade with Milwaukee and Oakland. And they've already pulled some stuff off with Milwaukee. So.
Well, and the A's seem to be your minor league team.
Yeah, I mean it's worked out pretty well to call guys up from Oakland to Atlanta, And so, man, we've extended them long term, and that's the other thing is the Braves, if they're going to trade for someone and they're going to give up players they really like, and don't just think prospects, man. I mean, you could see an Arcia get moved. You could see a top player get moved, a position player, but you're probably looking at Vaughn Grissom, something like that. That's really their biggest trade bait right now. And don't be surprised if the Braves pull off a trade and then extend them for 5 or 6 years after that. So Braves aren't going to give up the farm for 1 year of a good pitcher. That they've just never done that.
Yeah, and
So,
seeing how Grissom played last year when he was called up, I know he batted well, but with his glove, it's been a problem for him. Do you think that they have a chance of calling him back up, playing that left field position like you were talking about, where you needed Jock Peterson? Because you mentioned that Jock Peterson wouldn't be an everyday player, and to be honest, I don't know how much the Braves would need to construct the rest of their lineup. And if you're just bringing in a culture piece, I think you get that done with the coaching. Or yeah, a culture piece would be a good fit for a coaching staff position. I don't think you need to fill up your roster with pieces like that.
Yeah, I mean, Victor, that's a good point. And honestly, I just don't think Vaughn has a future in Atlanta. I could be totally wrong. Like I think if the Braves don't get what they're looking for, they're not going to overpay, and they're not going to sell the farm for someone they can't extend. And they've shown that for 3 years. So there's no reason to think they're going to change Pat now. If they can't get that, they'll throw Vaughn in left field. That's exactly what they did when they lost Dansby. And they didn't sign Dansby, and they didn't sign another shortstop, because last year we had like 4-star shortstops out on the market. When they didn't sign any of those, they said, fine, we've got Arcia. And so they extended him to a 2-year, $4 million contract or something absurd like that. And he was an all-star. So they're not afraid to do that. They are not going to overpay. They are not going to oversell. If they don't get what they want on the trade market for a left fielder or free agent, then you'll see Vaughn in left field. But I don't have any, obviously any insights to the team, but I watched an interview with Matt Olson, not this season, but the season before, when Vaughn came up and played for Ozzie at second base a lot. And Matt Olson said something really telling. Matt Olson, when asked about Vaughn Grissom, kind of rolled his eyes, chuckled, and said, yeah, he's got a lot of growing up to do. And what that told me is they see him as the annoying little brother. And so I don't know that they're sold that he fits into the clubhouse. I think he's still got to prove himself in that way too. So that's why I'm just not convinced the Braves are bought in to Vaughn Grissom.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you kind of mentioned it earlier. What you're looking for is an edge piece, because one of the things that you had an edge on was Ron Washington. He has an edge, and it didn't translate to the field because you need a player to do it. And we've talked about in the past where Jock did that for the team, and so I do believe that you probably will find, if it's not Jock or maybe somebody else, and Vaughn will just be in the minors again if he needs to be. And it's funny, the whole Oakland to Braves thing kind of reminds me of what Kansas City was to the Yankees back in the day, where they're just giving up players just willy-nilly. But I also don't see the Braves in the Glass now or Corbin Burns market, just because there are way too many other teams after those guys. And like you said, Brandon, the Braves don't give up the farm for 1 year and not necessarily knowing if they can extend them or not.
Yeah, but you know what the Braves have going for them, and I'd imagine it's similar in New York. Is there's some players they just want to play in New York, like they just love New York, and there's some players they just want to play in Atlanta. They're from Atlanta. They grew up watching Atlanta on TBS in the 90s and early 2000s. Like there's some players that just they want to play there. Like I think Matt Olson, that's why he signed his big extension, is because he wanted to play in Atlanta. And so I don't know. I think you're right. But if there is a piece out there, that I think the exception would be that they just wanted to play in Atlanta.
Right. No, absolutely, absolutely. And what do you guys think? Let's transition a little bit. I don't believe these things are happening. But where do you guys think Soto's going to land? I'll start with you, Brandon.
He's gonna put him in pinstripes, man. He's gonna be a Yankee. I think the Yankees are the ones foolish enough. I'm not bought in on Soto. I wasn't bought in on Soto when he was a national. And mainly it's because even though I follow the Nats, I'm a Braves fan, and they're always pinning him against Acuna. And I saw Acuna every day. I saw Soto every day, and it was very clear to me that Acuna was the best all around player. So my thought is Soto. I think he's a fantastic player. He might have one or two top three MVP seasons in him at this point in his career because he's still very young. But I think he ends up in pinstripes, and then he'll walk as a free agent and sign some absurd $500 or $600 million deal with some team not named the Yankees.
What's
That
funny too, though?
that is the best scenario, that the Yankees trade the farm and he ends up somewhere else.
Right?
And that's what I was gonna say. What's funny is that the Yankees are all in on Soto, thinking that he's gonna win them the World Series this year, and so they're willing to trade everybody. They're willing to trade one of their rookies this year, Anthony Volpe, to go over there and for the potential of Soto coming over and completing the package. And I say take him. It'd be awesome to see the Yankees lose all these high prospects, rookies, players that are adding to their lineup, and then not do anything with it. And then the Mets swoop in and pick them up an off season later. I wouldn't mind that at all. So, but
Yeah.
I'm with Brandon. I remember when he was in Washington, he was electrifying because he was that sassy, that very bold player on the field. He had a lot of emotion when he was at the plate, and I think it just brought something out of the fans that made them want to root for him. And that's all I really saw out of Soto. I think we mentioned before that Rendon was kind of picking up the slack where they were both able to be beneficial pieces on that Nationals World Series team. I don't think that he's going to add too much value to the Yankees when he goes over. But I don't think he'll add too much value if he comes over to the Mets either. And so that's why I'm all with the Yankees taking him this year.
Yeah, we got Bob Nightingale tweeting out. He said the Padres want Michael King, Clark Schmidt, Drew Thorpe, Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, and two other prospects. For that's Bob Nightingale. I mean, with Bob, you never know what's true or not because sometimes he gets it right, sometimes he gets it wrong.
He gets it wrong most of the time, man.
Yeah, he does. He does. But and they also want the Yankees to take Trent Grisham with them.
Yeah.
But that's honestly, if that's what they're asking for, I might give up one of Michael King or Clark Schmidt, but not both. And then the rest of the guys.
Well, that's pretty comp for what the Padres gave up to get Soto.
Yeah, but they have more control for Soto.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But I mean, the Yankees maybe think that he, is their missing piece to get to the World Series, but honestly, he's just going to replace Stanton, for the 100 games that Stanton can't play.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's all the Padres are trying to do is get all the pieces that they gave up to Washington because they gave up a lot of
A lot.
They gave up a lot and got nothing in return. But the Padres were in that same situation. They're like, man, we just need one more piece and we'll be good.
And
And they
that's
brought him over.
it's a culture problem in San Diego, man. And I will say one interesting thing that ties the Braves into Soto is that somebody tweeted something about Soto, and or no, they asked someone tweeted and asked Ronald Acuna Jr. on Twitter, what player he would most love to see become a Brave, and he actually responded, and his answer, Juan Soto.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, maybe the Braves trade for him. They need a left fielder.
The Brave, well, Soto could play left field. And Soto might be compelled just simply because the Braves are contenders right now. And so, if he wants a chance at winning a ring, barring something crazy, he knows at least the Braves are, on that trajectory again this year, this coming up season. But and he would totally bring the the juice that the Braves are needing, those vibes. But man, if I'd have to watch the Soto shuffle after every time a pitcher throws the ball, man, I just don't know how many more Braves games I could watch, man.
No, but honestly, he's that piece that you guys might need. He's an on base machine. You guys don't need any more power, but he provides it. And like you said, he brings the juice. So it might be the best option for the Braves if they were more in on Soto. But I don't see AA trading away a farm for him.
Yeah, me either.
Well, it's one of those things that we're talking about a little bit of edge from Soto, but it also has to be the right edge, right? I don't know if Soto brings the right edge to the team because you could see him do his little shuffle, but is that really the right edge that you need for the team? Because the edge I look at is Harper. As much as I don't like the Phillies, I gotta respect Harper's game because he brings the edge and it's completely directed at the other team, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no question about it. He backs it up, and then what I loved about it is that at the end of the Braves Phillies series, he squashed the whole thing up like it was just part of the game, right? So he had the edge for the series and then squashed it. That's the edge you need. You need edge with leadership, not necessarily just edge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, on a much smaller level, Jock Peterson brings that Jocktober, to the lineup. And like Victor said, the Braves, honestly, I mean, I don't know what they would do with Soto because Soto seems to be the type of player that needs to be the guy. Like he thrived on that in Washington. He hasn't necessarily been the guy in San Diego, whether they wanted him to be or not. If he comes over to Atlanta, he's not the guy. Like Ronald Acuna Jr. is the guy. Matt Olson is the guy. Austin Riley is the guy. Like, so he maybe slots in batting fifth. And yeah, so I just don't see for what it would take to give him up. I don't see that. But great. He'd be a great fit for the Yanks.
Well, let's move on. One last thing I'll say about the Padres. I think they did the same mistake the Mets did. Other than the Soto trade, everything else they threw money at the problem, and so I think they did the same thing the Mets did. And so I'm hoping that obviously the Padres got a transition because of they had the reports out there that they needed to take a loan out to pay payroll and stuff like that, and with the loss of their owner, I think they're going to scale back, and that's why they're trying to get rid of all these players and kind of regroup. Obviously, there's some players that they're going to be stuck with, but Soto's going to be gone somewhere, most likely the Pinstripes, and another team, maybe the Cubs after that. But we'll see. But Victor, what do you think? At the end of the day, we got to talk about it. The top guys in the market. Where do you think Ohtani's going to land ultimately?
Yeah, well, Ohtani, like I said, he's staying over in the West Coast. You saw, I think, more recent reports of him being in stronger trade talk or stronger negotiation with the Angels. So it seems like he might have a bigger likelihood of staying in Anaheim. And I think that honestly would be the best fit for him because he's already a star in LA. He's the face of that organization. He can continue to be comfortable there. I know he says he wants a World Series, but if he gives it a couple of years, I know they're not on that path, but with Ron Washington and the new coaching staff that they hired this year, they could very much well be on that sort of trajectory. And so if he signs like a long-term deal, he can still have that potential of winning a World Series with LA. And it might be just as good as a chance of winning a World Series with LA with the Dodgers or San Francisco. I think the Giants have a long way to go before they win a World Series. They have a lot of pieces to pick up, so it doesn't make sense for him to go over there on a winning standpoint. And the Dodgers, the ones that are, I think, leading the negotiations with Ohtani, they obviously always get to the dance. But with all these other powerhouses in the National League, I don't see them winning any more than I see the Angels winning, to be honest. And so I think it's best for him to just stay put in Anaheim.
What do you think, Brandon?
Well, one thing I'm interested to hear you guys. I think about like let's narrow it down to this. What do you think are the three teams Ohtani could land in? And I'm gonna give you mine. I agree with Victor. I think the number one likely scenario is Anaheim. If Anaheim can spend the money, I don't think they brought Ron Washington in. I think they're hoping Ron Washington does in Anaheim what Dusty Baker did a little bit of in Houston, what maybe they were hoping Buck would do in New York. Is just kind of bring some stability to a crazy clubhouse. And so Ron Washington can totally do that. So it might be a new day, man. And I think that might be enough. So I'm going Anaheim, the Angels. I'm going Dodgers number 2, and I'm going Giants number 3. I think Ohtani lands at one of those three teams.
Yeah, and I'm with you the same. Before Ron, I would have told you Anaheim had no shot, or the Angels had no shot. That's the old name.
Yeah.
But now, with Ron there, I think they're a sneaky pick for keeping them. And I don't know how I feel about that, because I don't see Trout ever staying healthy. So and Rendon, I don't see Rendon staying healthy. So they're still got a lot of holes to fill in their roster. But I do see them as a sneaky pick. But my number one, I think, is San Francisco. I'm with the three teams: San Francisco, Dodgers, Anaheim. Actually, I keep saying Anaheim. Angels. I think the Angels are number 2. Actually, I think it's San Francisco, Angels, or Dodgers. I think Dodgers might end up having to go after some other players like a Dylan Cease or something like that because I don't think they're getting those honey. And plus, he can't pitch. Yeah, he can't pitch right now. So, and Dodgers need pitching. So they're going to be spending a lot of money for hitting, and yeah, they need hitting as well, but it's not as much of a need for the Dodgers. Other than pitching, they need more pitching than they do bats. But yeah.
What makes me most nervous is that since we all agree that he's probably not going to the Dodgers, that means that the Dodgers are going to look to spend money this year, big money this year. And that means that they're going to probably try to sign Yoshinobu Yamamoto as best as they can. and I know that they're a strong team in the race for him. It's been between the Yankees and the Mets, but if they don't, but I only think those are the teams at the forefront because Otani's been linked with the Dodgers so much. But if he ends up going somewhere else, I could see Yoshinobu Yamamoto going to the Dodgers for a lot of money.
I think you should assume everybody could go to the Dodgers because, and Franklin, you and I have talked about this in the past year. The Dodgers did something really weird this past offseason. They let a lot of players walk and didn't replace any of them. Like maybe they replaced them with internal players, or they went and got some mid-tier players, but they didn't make any big splashes, and as a result, man, their pitching stunk this year. Like now they hit some bad breaks, but their starting pitching stunk this year. It was bad, and they still won the division. So I think you look at that and go, man, I think they're ready to spend money. They spent a year, saving up money, doing everything, waiting for the Otani sweepstakes. So no, I don't know. I actually think the Dodgers would be my number one or number two choice for Otani to land. And then I think you've seen them do it before. Don't rule out that they wouldn't sign 2 or 3 players to $300 to $500 million deals, because they can totally do that, especially after a year of not spending anything.
Yeah, and that's where I see the trade market because how their farm system is ranked. I could see them trading for a Glass now or a Corbin Burns or Dylan Cease, and maybe extending them after that. But I do see them more grabbing those guys in the trade market, because I think that's what they've done in the recent past. They've traded for the Scherzer and the Turner, and yeah, they didn't extend them, but they given up their farm for them, and they still have a number one farm. According to the people that call, judge those things. But that's what I see them doing if they miss out on Otani, because yeah, some of that pitching's coming back, but you still got to replace Urias because he's not coming back after what he did. So you got to replace him. Kershaw probably is coming back if he wants to, but at this point, he's a number 5. And if that, he might be more of a bullpen piece at this point.
And he's not going to pitch for the first, I think, half of the year or something like that. He's injured.
Yeah, so I don't see him. I see them doing more of a trade than spending a whole bunch of money on a Yamamoto, because at the end of the day, they spend money, but I don't see them spending more money than Yankees and the Mets on a Yamamoto. And if Yamamoto goes to LA, it's because he wanted to go to LA, not because of the money. You know what I mean? So if the Dodgers do get him, it's not because they outbid the Yankees or the Mets. It's because he wanted to go to LA. And as a Met fan, if that happens, we can't be upset about it, because just like the Braves trust AA, we got to trust Stearns in the same process, and just let it happen. And if we did our best, we just move on. But I don't see them outbidding us or the Yankees on the Yamamoto, because I think the Yankees or the Mets will give him the most money, and so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, I said a little bit of Yamamoto. Where do you think he's going to land, Brandon? We haven't heard from you on the Yamamoto front.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think he's a Met. I don't see these free agents. They kind of everybody's got their different set. So you got some free agents and they just follow the money. So they tell their agent, give me the best money you can possibly get me. And that's what they do. Other free agents say, here's my list of teams. And so go make something happen with those teams and let me know, the best contracts. And then, so if the fact is that if Yamamoto, if either one of those, if he wants to play in New York, then he'll be in New York. And all the reports I've read say that he would love to be in New York. And I think having Senga really helps with that. So there, I just think that brings value to him being in New York. So I think so, and especially if he's looking for the money. He might knock on the Dodgers' door to see what's going on, but I think at the end of the day he lands in New York, and I'd be shocked if that deal doesn't get done pretty quick.
I hope so. I'm tired of the rumors. I don't know if I said that enough during this podcast yet.
Franklin, man, it's off season. I told you guys, these writers get paid to write stories, and they get paid based on how many clicks they get, how many views their articles get, how many reviews they get, discussion they get. So all these rumors, man, are like, you just read the headlines and you go, man, I could have written that. Like, I could have written that. They just needed enough people to talk about it on, Twitter or discussion boards that day, and they get paid. And what do they care? So you can't, man, I don't believe anything that is written right now. Not a single thing.
I'll confirm what you just said with 2 tweets. And I'm not going to name the reporters because I don't want to give them any more love because of what you just said. But one reporter said for Yamamoto, and this is just Yamamoto, the Yankees are heavily involved. They're the heavy favorite. There's a slight chance the Dodgers are in it, but the Mets aren't considered to be a challenge. Okay, and then on the other side, Mets are the heavy favorite, and the Yankees aren't supposed to be a challenge. They just pinning New York against New York just to argue, and just because we love arguing with each other.
Because the algorithm loves it.
At this
the
point,
algorithm loves when you tick off a fan base because they retweet it and they quote tweet it and they bash it and they talk about it on podcasts and they do all this stuff. And I'm glad you didn't name them by name because that's what they do. And then people go back and read the article, or, it's just wild. And that's how they get paid, man. And when there's nothing to write about right now, like the Braves beat writers are silent, man. Like, they're talking about stories from 40 years ago. They recently wrote a story on Hank Aaron, his legacy. Like, they got nothing to write about because they're not getting any spills from the front office. It's airtight. So, man, they just got to have something to write about. Don't give them the love. Don't believe anything that you hear.
yeah, at this point, I just want to fall asleep, wait till spring training, maybe even opening day, see where all these pieces landed, and then just get ready for baseball season. Because it's all we're going to be hearing is rumors, reports. All this is just going to be banter until the season actually starts.
Absolutely. So, that was our preview of the winter meetings. I think that's a good landing point. What do you think, guys? I think that's a good landing point, and let's see what happens in the winter meetings, guys. Like, subscribe, hit that button, hit that notification button as well, so you get notified when we come on. Comment, let us know. You heard a lot today, a lot of different things. Let us know what you feel. Who's right? Let's talk about it. But again, before we get out of here, you guys got any last words?
Let's go Mets.
Nah, man, let's make it happen, man. This would be an interesting winter meeting, and I hope that I get the text message because I'm off of X right now, Twitter. And so I hope I get the text message, Franklin, from you saying, man, we got to hop on the podcast because the Braves just made a splash. So let's do it.
Well, if they make a splash, it's not happening until the press conference. So I'm sure you'll tune in for that.
Maybe, man. I'm disconnecting. I'm getting all my news from you guys. I do this podcast.
Excellent. Yeah, you guys too, man. Like, subscribe, and again, comment who's right. Give me your comments. Let me know what you got to say. But we'll see you on the next one. Again, see you. Let's go Mets.